How's it going, guys? It's Javi here. Today is September 4th, 2018, and the main focus of this video is obviously gonna be Tropical Storm Gordon, since Tropical Storm Florence doesn't seem to be an imminent threat to land. So let's get started with this analysis by looking at the satellite imagery, and you can see that this is a 70 mile per hour, 1,000 millibar pressure tropical storm. So if the winds strengthen 4 more miles per hour, then it's considered a hurricane. But as you can see, based off the satellite imagery, is that this storm doesn't look very organized for a strong tropical storm. That's at least in my opinion, because the first thing is that this storm is very lopsided in terms of the moisture, because most of the moisture is in the eastern portion of this storm, while the western portion is completely dry, and it looks like there's something basically pulling that moisture to the east side, which is that the wind shear that's very strong. And you can see evidence of that is based off of these outer bands of these thunderstorms. You can see that they're trying to push into the center of circulation, but it seems like that wind shear is basically shearing away these thunderstorms from the center of circulation out into the northeastern side of this storm. And if I showed you this satellite imagery without telling you any information on this tropical storm, you would assume that it would make landfall somewhere between Florida and Alabama, but it's actually gonna make landfall most likely in Mississippi later tonight. And the reason why the storm is so lopsided is, like I said, the wind shear, and it just looks like it's gonna make landfall. But what's amazing is that it's still expecting to make landfall in Mississippi, as I would assume the eye is just to the south of Alabama and gonna make landfall in Mississippi very, very soon. And based off how this storm looks on satellite, it's also looking like this storm is losing a little bit of its thunderstorm activity, because you see early in the loop, you see those dark reds and oranges, but then that slowly winds down, as it may show that the wind shear is really making the storm struggle to strengthen into a hurricane, although most forecasters expect it to be. But in my opinion, at least based off of what I'm seeing, I do not expect it to strengthen into a hurricane before it makes landfall. But don't get me wrong, it's certainly possible. I wouldn't be surprised if it does. But based off of what it's looking like right now, I don't think it's going to strengthen into a hurricane, because I just feel like the lack of thunderstorm activity we're seeing as of recently, and this ongoing wind shear that's just to the northeast of this storm, like I'm going to show you right now, you can see that the storm eye is right around here, and you see those red lines represent the stronger, more unfavorable wind shear that's basically shearing away most of the thunderstorms from the center of circulation. And that's one of the reasons why I don't believe this is going to strengthen into a hurricane just before it makes landfall. And it's also due to the fact that it's very close to land. It's going to make landfall very soon. It's about I think it's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and by the time it's probably gonna make landfall within 2-3 hours from now. So I don't think it's gonna it could strengthen into a hurricane, especially with that persisting wind shear that's pulling the moisture away from the center of circulation. But still, there's gonna be impacts with this, and we definitely need to continue watching this storm as it makes these moves, and as it continues to move ashore. And who knows, we might see a strengthened thunderstorm activity all of a sudden, because tropical cyclones, like I said, with strength is very difficult to forecast. But as you can see here, is that it looks like the eye is just south of Mobile and gonna make landfall straight into the Pensacola and Mobile area, but it's gonna move to the northwest, which shows how lopsided this storm is. And I would assume the eye is right around here, but expect the heaviest rain to be near the Alabama coast and the Pensacola area, and the westernmost portions of the Florida Panhandle. And I would expect even inland we could see that heavy rain. And remember, as this storm continues to move northwest, we will see that rain also move northwest. So I expect places like not only Alabama, but inland Mississippi to get heavy rain and possibly flash flooding from this, since these are very heavy rain bands we're seeing that are circulating the eye of this storm, and it could definitely cause some flooding, flash flooding, even well inland when this storm makes landfall, and even if it does weaken significantly by the time it goes over land. And it's especially still gonna dump a heavy amount of rainfall in Arkansas. Which is gonna see a stationary front that's gonna be a little bit hesitant to move anywhere, and it's gonna make basically the remnants of Gordon in Arkansas basically stop and just dump a bunch of rain in Arkansas. So don't expect a Harvey situation, obviously, but expect some heavier rainfall than you would think in Arkansas. Just because the storm moved onto land doesn't mean you guys won't feel the impacts, because you guys certainly will feel the impacts. And you can see that it's going to make landfall very, very soon. I'm going to show the future Doppler radar loop to show you where exactly most of the rain is going to be. So this is as of right now, and as we move into the future, 7:30 Central Time, 8 o'clock Central Time, so about an hour from now, you could see that most of the rain is going to be centered basically right towards Mobile, so, and maybe the extreme eastern portions of Mississippi, but I expect anywhere west of maybe Gulfport should miss out on the rainfall threat most likely, because this storm obviously is very lopsided, and I think most of the rain should avoid New Orleans, so I wouldn't be worried much about a rainfall threat in New Orleans. Possibly just a windier than average day in New Orleans, and that's about it from what I expect west of the Gulfport area. So let's move on to the current wind speed we're seeing from Tropical Storm Gordon, because obviously wind is going to be another factor to check with this storm. And here's the current wind speed. So you can see still, although it's only a couple of hours from landfall, you could still see that most of the stronger winds are just offshore of the barrier islands of Alabama and Mississippi. We're starting to see 20-mile-per-hour winds in Mobile, gusts up to 36. And we're starting to see those winds slightly increase in Biloxi and New Orleans, but just because it doesn't look that bad right now, it's going to get much worse, these winds, as the eye moves ashore within the next couple of hours. So expect weather conditions to quickly become worse, especially since this storm has such a small wind field. You may think just only 2 hours away from the eye that it won't be that bad of a storm, but since the strong winds are very close to the center of circulation, then conditions should deteriorate quickly along the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and Alabama. So keep that in mind as the storm continues to go on. And here's a current track of this. The track doesn't really matter much at this point because it's most likely going to make landfall in Mississippi, but I wanted to show you this because it will show that it's going to hit Alabama and basically stall over Alabama for several hours, because you can see that Thursday morning to Thursday night, it's barely going to move over Alabama, and that could create, Arkansas, my bad, and that could create a flash flood threat in Arkansas. So do not let your guard down if you're very inland of the storm. And here's the current rainfall forecast. I'm going to give my own forecast because at this point, I don't really have too much faith in what the Weather Channel is saying, because I feel like the storm, how the storm is trending as of right now, it doesn't look like the Weather Channel's forecast is going to be necessarily 100% accurate. So here's my current forecast for basically the three main cities or areas that are going to be affected from Tropical Storm Gordon. So in Biloxi, Mississippi, I expect sustained winds right around 35 to 45. So I mostly expect tropical storm force sustained winds from this. I don't expect hurricane conditions, because for one, I don't think it's going to strengthen into a hurricane just before it makes landfall. And another thing is that even if it